Hi, how are you? I'm Anthony from Cypher House, and today I'm leaving my comfortable puzzle-solving desk to go solve some puzzles live in the field. And when I say field, I mean a cornfield. Last year, my wife Liz and I played a different corn maze every weekend during the month of October. And this year, I wanted to share that experience with all of you. I know that corn mazes are a bit of a different kind of puzzle than what I usually solve on the channel, but along the way I'm going to talk about how even these corn mazes can teach us something about how to create positive experiences for puzzle solvers. This week we're checking out Mazezilla in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania. We're on our way to Mazezilla right now. According to their website, Mazezilla has been operating since 1998. They have an 11-acre corn maze, and this year the theme is Medieval Mazezilla. The cost of admissions to Maizilla is $13, but kids who are 4 years old and younger get in for free, and there are discounts if there's large parties of 15 people or more. There's Maizilla. Quite a lot of parking available at Maizilla. And you know they're serious when they have people waving you through, telling you where to go park. When we first arrived at Maizilla, we entered in through a marketplace area that sold a variety of produce and other items from the farm. Now the actual maze itself is actually down over the hill on our right, and in front of us is a hayride that actually takes you down to the rest of the activities. There's also a walking path available, but who would take the walking path when there's a hayride option? Now if we plan things out as well as we did last year, we're going to take the hayride down the hill, but we're going to take the walking path back up the hill because we're smart. That's the right way to do it. So from here we loaded up onto the tractor and made our way down to the maze. You can start to see the corn maze and the tower coming into view, as well as all of the food tents and other activities that they have down here. Once we made it down the hill, we purchased our tickets, and then it's maze time. Medieval Mazezilla. So with admissions, they gave us a couple of things here. We have this, it looks like maybe a punch card. Medieval Mazezilla 2021, there's a bunch of different characters or items that it looks like we have to retrieve while we're inside the maze. Also, for an additional $1, you can buy a postcard that has a map of the maze on it. So we decided to do that because we're going for 100%, and I think a map is probably the only way to be able to find all of the things. Now, I know the decision to use a map might be a little bit controversial. Don't worry. We won't be using the map the entire time that we're in the maze. Liz and I tested out 3 different ways that a puzzle solver might attempt to approach this maze. And I'm going to talk about each of those approaches in detail as we go. So it looks like as we enter, we go in and sit on these benches. After sitting on the benches, a maze official told us a bit about how the maze was structured, and gave us the general rules of the maze. No running, no pulling on the corn, things like that. After this quick intro, we were allowed to enter the maze. So Mazezilla is kind of unique from some other mazes that we've done in that a lot of mazes ask you to go through and visit all of the stations, but Mazezilla is the only one that names those stations after the part of the maze where you're going to find them. King is going to be in the part of the maze that looks like a king, so maybe the crown in the middle, that could probably be king or queen, or maybe both. Shield is probably going to be in that part of the maze that looks like a shield. So our goal is to get to all those parts of the maze and get the corresponding punches that go along with them. Liz and I used the map to take us directly to the first few locations. As you'll see, this map doesn't show the exact location of the hole punch stations in each area, but the areas themselves are small enough that once you're in the correct vicinity of a hole punch station, it's usually pretty easy to track it down. It looks like we found our first of many hole punches. We're sitting right in the middle of this bow and arrow here. Okay, Liz and I just got our 4th station. It's the sword, and we're realizing that this is pretty easy to do if we just follow the map the whole time. So we decided to implement a bit of a challenge to ourselves for getting the rest of these. We have 7 hole punches left to go, And the rule that we've decided to force onto ourselves is that we are only going to look at this map while we're at one of these stations. Okay, so we're starting down here at the sword. We're going to work our way around and up into hopefully that big open area in the middle of this tower. We think Princess might be in the tower, but if she's not in that big open area, we might have to go up into the roof somewhere. So we decided to approach the next couple of stations in this manner. We decided to look at the map only if we were at a hole punch station, and this did indeed increase the difficulty at least a little bit. This is that big open area, completely enclosed, that we said we were going to go to, and we made it here successfully without any problems, but there is no hole punched in here. So we could be in for some trouble. Let's see if we can make our way up to that roof. So after this, we decided to use a time-tested corn maze strategy. So one strat that I and my family have often used in doing corn mazes is when we have two paths that we're pretty sure will meet up at some point, or when we're pretty sure that nobody's going to get lost by going down either of them, we'll sometimes send person A down one path and person B down another path. And we usually do bird calls of some sort to notify each other when we see something. So just now, right before I started filming, I sent Liz down this path and I went down this path. And as soon as we go down this path, just at the end of the corner here. We found Princess. And after that, we were able to find two more without very much difficulty, so it was time to up the difficulty again. Okay, we made it into the Jester. You can tell this is his face because there's these extremely small just patches of corn, which are his eyes. Okay, we made it successfully to the dragon, and once again, we didn't get lost. We pretty much found it almost immediately. So, for the last 4 hole punches that we need, we still need King, Queen, Sorcerer, and Knight. Liz and I have decided that we are not going to look at the map at all after this point. We're going to try to get from where we are in the dragon over here, down to the King, up to the Knight and Queen, and then up here to what we believe is a Sorcerer. And then we're going to the completely opposite corner of the maze from where we entered. We need to make our way all the way back down to the exit, all without looking at our map after this point. That's our challenge to ourselves. With this new challenge in place, we decided to break out a few more maze-solving strategies to help us get through. We're also going to use the guard tower to orient ourselves. We know that we always want to be on the right side of the guard tower and away from it for the other 4 pieces that we need. So we're going to use that, as well as maybe the positioning of the sun, which is up there. We're going to try to keep the sun on our left as we work our way that way in the maze. Okay, I got another maze-solving trick if you're looking to 100% a maze without using a map. Liz and I were walking through this area here when we noticed that just on the other side of this corn, there's a very large group of people kind of congregating. And people tend to do this near pieces that you don't have yet. So we made our way around this big section and we found ourselves in the Knight. The Knight's stamp is just over there. Liz is punching them now. Eventually, we got to the point where we only needed 1 hole punch left. But we only have the Sorcerer left, who is somewhere in the back corner of the maze, we know. The Sorcerer was farther away than the 3 hole punches that we had just gotten. But eventually... You see something?
I see.
Oh! Caw! Well, Lizzie found the Sorcerer, I think. So as you can see, we've successfully punched holes in all of our necessary things, but we do have to get out of the maze yet without looking at our map. On the way out, I wanted to note how well Mazezilla did at upkeeping the paths within the maze itself. Now, of course, this is going to be a bit harder on weekends when it rains, and we've been fortunate that we haven't had any rain recently. But you'll notice that at Mazezilla, we have paths that are pretty much uniform width, and they're a very comfortable width. You could very easily come across a group who's going in the opposite direction, and you get to one side, they get to the other side, and there's no problems for either of you whatsoever. As for the ground itself in this particular maze, a lot of it is very level. You'll see that some corn mazes, they build them on hills, and so you have like dramatic upward slopes in some places. This one's very well upkept. There's a few rocks. I think we both tripped on rocks once or twice already as we've been walking through, but no serious injuries. Like, for the most part, if you're watching where you're stepping, you're going to be perfectly fine. We're just klutzes. Also on our way out, we happened upon a helpful assistant within the corn maze.
What are you looking for?
We were looking for this. We found it.
Found it?
Yeah, we did it. We got them all now.
Good. Good for you.
We just got to get out. Maze official giving us guidance, which is cool. They have people walking around in here helping people out. Not all mazes do that either. Oh, what's around the corner? What's around the corner? We're out of the maze! We did it! Woo! So it took us about an hour to get through the maze, almost an hour exactly actually, and to get all of the hole punches. Now, like I said, we did use the map for help for like the first 4, and then moderate help for 2 of them, and then we did the rest of it completely without a map. But the map is extremely helpful, as you saw, but at the same time, I don't know how we would have done any of that if we hadn't at least looked at the map prior to going in. Once we were out of the maze, I wanted to take a quick look around to see what other sorts of activities Mazezilla had to offer. So we got some like food places here. There's a food place to eat. We got some, for kids, we got some bouncing stations over there. Over on this side, we have some slides going down through that big mountain of hay over there. And then towards our back, we have the shop that we came in at and the tractor ride, bringing people up and down the hill. And then it was time to ask Liz what her favorite part of our trip had been. So Liz, what was your favorite part of the corn maze?
I think it would have to be, honestly, the fries with the vinegar and the ketchup.
So we enjoyed our snack and then headed back to the car. Recording. And as is tradition, we're going to be taking the walking path all the way back up the hill. Okay, so that wraps it up for our experience at Maizilla, but I guess I will toss it over to Anthony at home. Back to you, Anthony at home. Thanks, Anthony in the car. So let's talk about some of the things that Maizilla did very well and some of the things that could be improved upon for the solver experience. As with any puzzle solving experience, the impression on the player actually starts before the player and the puzzle meet. For example, here Maizilla did a great job at creating a fun-filled environment outside of their maze. And having the opportunity to take a tractor ride from the parking lot down to the maze entrance was a fun feature that helped set Maizilla apart from other corn mazes in the area. When a solver is working on a lengthy puzzle, it's important that the appearance and method of interacting with that puzzle don't detract from the player's ability to solve the puzzle itself. Maizilla did a great job of upkeeping the paths within their maze, which allowed the solvers to focus on solving the maze itself, rather than taking on cumbersome side tasks like figuring out how to get through an overgrown area or stepping around a muddy surface. Innovation is the key to creating a good puzzle-solving experience. Puzzle solvers don't want to solve the same puzzles over and over and over again. Maizilla innovated what's typically expected of a corn maze by naming these hole punch stations after the part of the maze where that hole punch station can be found. Finally, when designing a puzzle, it's important to keep the solver's solve path in mind. For every step that the player takes, the designer should have a logical next step in mind for the player to take. That next step might not always be immediately apparent to the solver themselves, but after they figure it out or after they learn about it later, it should be obvious what they were expected to do. For me, it's not immediately apparent how Maizilla expected solvers to approach their maze. As you can see from this map on the screen, there's a continuous path from the entrance of the corn maze at the bottom right, all the way around the outer perimeter of the maze to the exit. So it seems that the intention of the maze was to have players do more than simply find their way out. Naming the hole punch stations after the area in the maze where they're located seems to indicate that the player should have some knowledge of the map itself if they're attempting to 100% the maze and find all the punches. However, this handheld map was an additional purchase and not included with the price of tickets. Additionally, having the map made the maze pretty trivial to get through. My best guess is that the maze designers expected solvers to take a look at the large mounted maps at the maze's entrance to get a rough idea of how the maze was structured and where the various areas were located. And if there was a solver that didn't quite want as big of a challenge, they could purchase the handheld maps for an additional cost. Designing a satisfying maze can be challenging to do, just like designing any other satisfying puzzle. I look forward to seeing how other corn maze companies approach this problem of a map, namely that without a map, the maze might be too challenging, but with a map, the maze might be too easy. So stay tuned for more things like that later in this series. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and as always, happy escaping.